Good evening, students. Today are going to learn a new lesson, health and diseases. Health. So abuse. Abuse occurs in a variety of forms and are deeply rooted in cultural, social, and economic practices. The solving this global problem, however, requires a much better understanding of its occurrence, causes, and consequence with context to sexual and childhood abuse. This is followed by substance abuses. Are people leading healthier lives in today's modern world than their generations did not in the past? For instance, smoking cigarettes, alcohol addiction, use of drugs, eating high fat and cholesterol rich diets, excessive intake of junk foods, reduced physical activity are some of the risk factors for illness and earlier death. So the peoples nowadays lives in the modern world than their generation did in the past. So in modern world, for instance, smoking cigarettes, alcohol addiction, use of drugs, eating high fat and cholesterol rich diets, excessive intake of junk foods, reduced physical activities are some of the risk factor for illness and early death. That is disease and early death. The role of behavior in health has been receiving increased attention in countries around the world. The health habits of the individuals and their behavior influence the development of chronic and fatal diseases such as diabetes. Chronic means lifelong. It leads to the lifelong disease such as diabetes, obesity, heart disease, cancer, and AIDS. So these conditions can be substantially reduced by adapting lifestyle that promotes wellness and protect their health by taking nutritious diet, regular exercise and by avoiding drugs, alcohol and smoking. So the development of chronic and fatal diseases are avoided by changing our lifestyle to promote wellness and protect their health by taking nutritious diet, that is balanced diet in our regular food, regular exercise and by avoiding drinking alcohols and smoking and taking drugs. Abuse and types of abuse. So the abuse refers to cruel, violent, harmful or injurious treatment of another human being. It includes either physical or emotional or psychological or verbal, child and sexual abuses. Abuse can occur within the family and with people who are not associated with the family. These days, the use of drugs, alcohol, and tobacco has been increasing, especially among teenagers and adolescents, for adventure, excitement, curiosity, and experimentation. So, let us analyze the consequence of sexual and childhood abuse, its prevention and protection. So nowadays the mostly the teenagers and adolescents are affected by taking drugs for their adventure, excitement, curiosity and experimentation. So first, childhood abuse. Child abuse constitutes all forms of physical or emotional ill treatment, sexual abuse, exploitation resulting in child's ill health, survival, and development. Physical abuse of a child is defined as those acts that cause physical harm, such as threatening, beating, kicking, and hitting the child. The next, sexual abuse. The sexual harassment is a form of power and dominance of one person over another, which can result in harmful consequences to the victim. It refers to inappropriate or forced sexual contact. Adolescent girls and women en- encountered sexual harassment in different forms. So, sexual abuse is more common at workplaces. Verbal remarks, comments, gestures, and looks are the most common form of abuses, thus resulting in psychological distress, physical illness, and eating disorders in the affected individual. Childhood abuse, child sexual abuses. Children are considered soft target for sexual abuse because they may not realize that they are being abused. Commonly, the abusers or the person well known to the child may even be living in the same locality. Abusers also brides use chocolates and toys to lure children and take advantages of the child's innocence. Sexually abused children show symptoms of genital injury, abdominal pain, frequently urinary infection, and behavioral problem.
Here are 6 types of child abuse. 1. Name calling and other forms of verbal abuse. While some people might argue and say that words will never hurt them, words can and often do hurt, especially when you're young. Harsh words from a parent or guardian has even greater ability to hurt. One study by Johnson, Cohen, and others suggests that verbal child abuse can increase the risk of the victim developing personality disorders. Research by Tischer and colleagues also shows that verbal abuse can negatively alter the development of the brain. As a result, verbal abuse can have serious physical effects on the child. 2. Shaming. Shaming people for something that isn't wrong is an abusive behavior parents can inflict on their kids to gain control. It causes the victim to develop insecurities which parents can use to get what they want if they find that their child is disobeying them. Over time, this causes the child to lose trust in their caretaker. As they grow up, they may also become hesitant in developing social connections with people, afraid that one day they will be betrayed or hurt. 3. Extreme helicopter parenting. Helicopter parenting is different from being a pushy parent. Extreme helicopter parenting occurs when parents are so overbearing that children do not have any say in even minor details. Parents who constantly check in on their child make it difficult for the child to learn healthy boundaries. Furthermore, if children are pushed too far emotionally or physically, they can develop physical or mental scars. 4. Sexual abuse. Sexual abuse, however explicit or implicit, can cause long-lasting harmful effects on the child. The child may suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder and can close themselves off completely, afraid of getting into relationships. This can cause them to fear intimacy. As a result, it's not just loneliness or alienation that they will experience growing up, but they may never feel safe again because their caretaker took that away. 5. Neglect. Not providing a child with proper emotional or physical needs can lead to many problems down the road. The child may become emotionally, socially, or psychologically underdeveloped. But neglect of physical and security needs, such as food and proper shelter, can also cause damage to the child's physical health. Depending on the severity, it can even result in immediate death. 6. Physical abuse. Physical abuse involves any harmful activity that causes a person to feel pain. Kicking, slapping, hitting, throwing, biting, and choking are only a few to name. The child may develop cuts, scars, bruises, broken bones, or even death depending on how badly they were beaten. Never allow someone to hit you or excuse the action even if they apologize. Please call for help from the police before things get more out of hand.
Approaches for protection of an abused child. Measures adapted for monitoring and assessment of abused child who have undergone signs. and symptoms of distress, or helpline, child helpline, counseling the child, family support, medical care. Child helpline. The child helpline provides a social worker who can assist the child by providing food, shelter, and protection. Counseling the child. Psychologists and social workers should provide guidelines, counseling, and continuous support to a victimized child. Family support. The victimized child should be supported by the family members. They should be provided with proper care and attention to overcome their sufferings. Medical care. A child victim of sexual offense should receive medical care and treatment from health care professionals to overcome mental stress and depression. Legal counsel. The family or the guardian of the child victim shall be entitled to free assistance of a legal counsel for such offense. Rehabilitation. Enrolling in schools and resuming their education is a proper step towards rehabilitation of the child. It is essential that the child's life is gradually returned to normal after the incident of abuse. Community based efforts. Conducting awareness camp on child abuse and its prevention. The next, prevention of child sexual abuse. The most important social policy proclaimed universally is the prevention of child abuse. Taking steps to avoid or to prevent childhood sexual abuse is parental and institutional responsibility. Instruction to be given by a parent and teachers to the child are: first, do not talk to any suspected person or strangers to maintain a distance. Second, not to be alone with unknown person. Third one, to be careful while traveling alone in public or private transport, public or private bus or auto. Not to receive money, toys, gift or chocolates from known or unknown person to them without the knowledge of their parent. Not to allow known or unknown person to touch them. It is the responsibility of every individual living in a society to ensure a safe and a protected environment for our child, to enable them to live with dignity and free from any forms of violence.